Thanks for watching Wednesday Debate Live with Taghreed Hussein here on Nile TV International. Tonight we'll be talking about a very interesting topic, not only women empowerment, but women empowerment and climate action and climate change, as Egypt is hosting COP27 next November. So we are actually working very hard in order to tackle this important file with all its dimensions, tackling the importance of women empowerment and as Africa's climate champions that should participate in order to bring climate change and to bring climate change suggested solutions to be implemented into actions on solid grounds. Climate change is the defining crisis of our time, and its impacts are actually weighted against the world's most vulnerable people, especially women and children. So around the world, you can find that women are working on sustainable solutions to the problems of climate change. We are saying also that women are considered to be creative if they are going to approach any sort of a file. So also, while tackling this important file of climate change and climate action, you can find women actually very much creative. They are definitely affected by the effects of climate change. Women worldwide should have a say today in the climate policy, and not as only a diverse policy that can be effective, and talking also sustainability. Talking about this important file, climate change, climate action, sustainability, we're really honored to have with us Ms. Nancy Hady, and Ms. Nancy is the Honorary Cultural Ambassador of Uganda in Egypt, and she's working with Africa. She's also a very distinctive entrepreneur. And Nancy, thank you so much for coming. And I know that it's your passion to talk about Africa.
Absolutely.
And definitely if we have it both with climate change, then here we go.
Yes, very important topic.
Thank you
so much for having me.
Thank you. So more on women empowerment in Africa and climate change will be coming on this episode, and talking also women as climate champions. This report will be back.
Minister of International Cooperation Rania Al-Mashad said that Egypt builds on the outcome of the UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow, COP26. During the upcoming 27th session of the Conference of the Parties, COP27, to the UNFCCC, set for Sharm el-Sheikh in November, through empowering women to guarantee their active contribution to climate change action. During a meeting on empowering women and girls via the transformation to green economy, Al-Mashad outlined the importance of having women actively participating in the climate action drives. The meeting tackled achieving gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls in the context of the climate change, environmental and disaster risk reduction policies and programs. Al-Mashad said that Glasgow summit focused on enhancing climate action through promoting gender equality policies and creating equal opportunities, as well as encouraging active participation of women and leading female figures through civil society institutions. Representatives of the member states, UN entities, and ECOSOC, accredited non-governmental organizations, the NGOs, from all regions of the world, are taking part in the meeting. The ministry is working towards setting up goals for women empowerment on various domains as part of the strategies forged with the help of development partners.
We're talking women empowerment in Africa and climate change, and as His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi had just highlighted in the promo that we've seen, that women are considered to be the key mainly for the future, مفتاح مستقبل مصر, the key to Egypt's future. The key to Egypt's future, Ms. Nancy, and we're talking about climate action. It's very important to see women today as very important and pioneering, their pioneering role in the different files and the different dossiers. Climate action, climate change and women empowerment are going hand in hand as we prepare for COP27 in November.
Yes, absolutely. They're very much connected. I mean, in general, and looking at how women are taking an active role, when we look in Egypt in the preparations, for COP27, and then of course, in general around the world, basically women make up at least half of the population of all countries. So it's important that women take an active role, of course, with regards to climate action and with regards to also taking strong action in terms of stopping the effects or reducing the effects of climate change. With regards to COP27 preparations as well, we see active role from many of our female ministers taking the leading role in terms of also, all the preparations for COP27 and also taking us from, with COP26, from commitments and promises to COP27, which is based on action.
Yes, action is very important. We're talking climate action, we're talking women's role in climate change, and here comes the positive vibes from Egypt, and Africa definitely is invited, building climate change in Africa and climate change resilience with women in Africa.
Yes.
What does it take? What are we expecting?
Well, you brought some very important points when we talk about climate resilience and adaptation. And these are terms that are very important for us as a country, for us as a continent, Africa, and for the rest of the world, and definitely for developing countries. Having Egypt host the COP27, of course, as an Egyptian, I'm very proud, and it's such a great honor. And representing Africa, during the COP 27, it's an important responsibility as well. And I'm excited because of also Egypt's strategic relationship with a lot of the larger countries that have a higher, emits in terms of carbon emits. Egypt's strategic and important relationship with a lot of these countries, I think, is very important. And I think this will play a key role in also negotiating with the countries, the bigger countries, and getting them to really move more towards, of course, taking that commitment again to action.
Yes.
So I'm expecting some wonderful things, and I believe we're going to see some really, really great action in Sharm el-Sheikh as well once we get closer to COP27 in terms of a lot of the very ambitious projects in terms that have been, started, and we'll see that, I guess, on the ground.
Yes,
well.
we're going to see that on the ground, and it's very important this stage that we are really preparing. Definitely it needs a very important plan that is going to be adopted by the government. We are talking women empowerment, and also we've seen great steps taken, Ms. Nancy, regarding crisis management, women and crisis management.
Yes. As you know, of course, women around the world, they tend to be the most affected by climate change and all the negative effects that come as a result of climate change. When we look at the fact that the majority of women around the world are from rural communities, we will look at the fact that around the world, with any kind of conflict, women are at a higher risk of abuse, of violence. So because we're disproportionately affected by climate change, it's important that we take an active role in also trying to reverse that in terms of trying to reduce our carbon emissions, in terms of trying to reduce our carbon footprint in general, as well as using the creativity of our women to actually institute clean energy, clean industries, factories, so I'm really optimistic in terms of, as you saw, in Egypt, taking a leading role in terms of really putting women at the front in leading a lot of these projects and these very important ministries that, are guiding us in that right direction as well.
Yes, we're really happy to see this sense also of togetherness while we're talking about Africa. And this has been highlighted in an important speech that we were seeing also with Her Excellency, the Minister of Environment, emphasizing this sense of togetherness that we are going to see and expect on solid grounds in Sharm el-Sheikh. So the buildup is there, the sense of enthusiasm, the incentives that are provided. What does it take?
Well, I think what you said are very important points, and as our minister Her Excellency Rania Mashat had said that we right now, we're in solidarity with our African brothers and sisters, and being the host of COP27, representing Africa, you know, during this term, it's a responsibility, but at the same time, with that solidarity, we know as a continent, although we may contribute the least in terms of climate change and the carbon emissions, but we are the most affected. And as a result of that, it is so important for us to put this kind of as like at the core of all of our, you know, sustainable development, ambitious sustainable development, you know, goals as a nation, individual nations, and as a continent, working together, South-South cooperation, coming up with solutions. At the same time, I think, you know, sharing best practices. I think this is important. This is why I like to use the word South-South cooperation, which is basically, in turn, developing countries, supporting each other, sharing best practices, because we're all in this together. So we have to really come up with how we're going to really mitigate a lot of the effects of climate change, which we see it in floods, we see it in droughts, we see it in a lot of different natural disasters that affect us in many ways.
Yes.
So.
Right you are, and you know, as we are preparing for COP27, we have work on more than one dimension. We are also working on the sense and the level of awareness and providing incentives. Awareness is very important. How to make women also today, if we're talking about the champions of climate, so we're talking about disseminating the culture and the sense of awareness of the importance of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, for instance, and educating women, how to educate women to engage in eco-friendly environment.
Yes. And this is really important as well, is the awareness part of it and the education part of it, and the involvement or inclusion of women, of course, to take an active role and a leading role. At the same time, what I've seen as well firsthand is a lot more, for example, a lot more private sector companies and even you know, NGOs, civil society, are pledging, you know, commitments to like initiatives, UN initiatives like the Global Compact, for example. And several of the companies that I've been involved in, actually, they pledged and they became participants of this. And there's actually an Egypt branch, which is really exciting. And this is basically committing to those principles that are part of that. As just briefly, I mean, this was established at the time of Kofi Annan when he was, you know, the Secretary General of the UN, which basically said the UN alone with governments cannot, you know, tackle this. We need the private sector to take, you know, an active role as well. So seeing that as well, and seeing again African, you know, private sector and civil society organizations, as well as Egypt, you know, specifically in Egypt, it really shows that we are moving along in terms of not just prioritizing and realizing how important this is, and how it really affects our growth as well and our development. It's not just when we talk about the effects of climate change, we're not just talking about the environment, we're talking about also our development. So it's all connected, as well as the empowerment of women. If you want to empower women, you have to really do something about, you know, climate change, because women are, again, disproportionately affected.
Yeah. While launching Egypt's Vision 2030, we're talking about also inclusion of the environmental dimension. We're talking about the integration of women empowerment practices and a national strategy also for the empowerment of women, representing a key pillar of protection and also of economic empowerment. Today, we do have lots of great examples of Egyptian women and Egypt as a voice of Africa. We are actually marketing those great examples and women empowerment role in Egypt to the African nations.
Absolutely. And again, when you talk about the Egypt Vision 2030, it's a very strategic, very ambitious, you know, our sustainable development plan for our country, which again is really putting out there a really good plan on how to deal with and how to really achieve, you know, the sustainable development goals. And I think Egypt's taken a good role. If we see how much our country has developed in terms of infrastructure projects, in terms of, again, keeping in mind the environment at the center. But looking at all the different, the president has come out and said all of the institutions, the government institutions, will take an active role in empowerment of women, for example. And the same with the environment. And I think this is what I really am really happy, is seeing Egypt taking the leading role, but not just talking and not just committing and not just promising, but actually taking action. And we're seeing that action on the ground. And that's really exciting, because we are setting a good example, and that really is important, again, with South-South cooperation. So we're sharing those ideas. We can encourage, inspire other nations to also look at our success stories and see how they can also,
relate.
Relate, yes.
Yes, definitely. And during the different presidential tours, you will find President Sisi highlighting also the programs that has been enrolled Egypt, launching a national dialogue on climate action in order to engage the different segments of the society. And those segments are including definitely women and also the youth.
Yes.
We talked about women inclusion and adaptation. However, the youth also has a very important role to play, and they can work or act as a drive force for climate change.
Yes, absolutely. As you see in Egypt, we've had several different, initiatives to empower the youth, and also for the Youth Forum. This has been a very successful series of events, yes, and good model, in getting the youth, having them address their issues, discussing it, coming up with solutions. So this has been really wonderful. And at the same time, I know recently the president has appointed actually a young lady to be the youth ambassador for COP27. I believe she's originally has a medical background. But this is exciting to see a lot of these young female role models, that are taking such an active role, as well as a lot of the NGOs or civil society organizations that are going to be taking part in COP27. A lot of them are led by women as well, which is also very exciting here. But I wanted to also mention something I think that is going to come up a lot in COP27, and we've heard Her Excellency, our Minister Rania Al-Mashad, talk about, is making sure that countries, and definitely developing countries, have access to climate finance.
Yes.
I mean, in order for us to really implement these very strategic and ambitious, plans, we need access to the finance to be able to do that. So I think as developing countries, and Egypt representing the continent of Africa during this COP27, I think this will be a big part of the discussion as well, and this will definitely help.
This is a
really
debate in itself.
Yes, to go from commitment to action again.
Yes, the commitment to action. This is actually the commitment of COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, because we are voicing also the voice of Africa at this important conference, and women are at the heart of climate action. And this is our topic for tonight. Let's watch this report and we'll be back.
Women all over the world, especially in Africa, face the greatest risks from environmental crises and have been shown to deliver better environmental policy results. Although it is already clear that women and girls will face higher risks and greater burdens because of the climate change, they remain specifically unprecedented in the climate and environmental negotiations. In 2019, the United Nations Gender Composition Report noted that the number of women represented in the UN Framework Convention on the Climate Change Bodies was not in line with the efforts to create gender balance. In response, member states adopted a gender action plan at the UN Climate Change Conference COP25 in 2019. The plan recognized that full, meaningful and equal participation and leadership of women in all aspects of the UNFCCC process and in the national and local level climate policy and action is vital for achieving long-term climate goals. And yet, by the time COP26 rolled around 2 years later, little had changed. The United Kingdom's COP26 presidency was predominantly male-led, and just 11 of the 74 African national representatives were women. Moreover, the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, male negotiators outnumbering women negotiators by around 60. Women comprise the majority of the world poor and are disproportionately affected by these crises. Women in Africa are overwhelmingly responsible for sourcing food and water for their families, and they often take the lead in fuel collection and household management. Women also make up nearly half of the world's smallholder farmers, producing 70% of the African food. As such, women and girls are often the first to experience the harsh realities of the climate change, but owing the preservity of inequality that limited their access to education and health care, unequal employment rate, and low rates of representation in the public office, they are less likely than men to be able to participate in decision-making process. According to the recent study of 194 countries, the immediate response to the COVID-19 pandemic was systematically better in countries with women leaders. Similarly, research has found that female representation leads countries to adopt more stringent climate change policies, and that a high degree of female representation in parliament makes it more likely that a country will ratify international environmental treaties. Women bring not just ambition, but also different perspectives and experiences to the table. As a result, their contributions ultimately lead to more unanswered and inclusive environmental policies. In Africa, the importance of women leadership in the face of climate change and biodiversity loss is evident to everyone.
We're really proud that a lot has been achieved, and also feeling very much proud as we find Egypt hosting, mega projects and big events and ceremonies. Look at the Royal Mummies Parade, the Rams Road, and definitely we're expecting GEM to be also hitting headlines. And the COP27 once again is proving our potential, Egypt's potential, to host such worldwide events.
Yes. Like you said, with the parade of mummies, and then we had also the AFCON. I mean, we had so many wonderful examples of Egypt as the right venue for hosting these important events. And when we talk about COP27, I mean, what can be more important than talking about the environment and the effects of climate change on each country? And especially when we talk about Africa, because Africa being the breadbasket of the world. So we produce a majority of the food for the world. So most of the country's food security depends on Africa. So when we talk about climate change, when we talk about the effects of carbon emissions and all the negative effects of climate change, and how it's affecting also our ability as a continent to continue the food security projects for most of the world, it further emphasizes the importance of such an event and such a conference. And again, I agree with you, Egypt's the perfect venue and the perfect place to host such an event.
Yes, definitely. And in co-relevant to our topic, women participation in climate change, we're always asking, even while running household stories, we're always asking about the finances of doing it. So here comes the role of climate finance, let me say, in handling this challenge.
Yes. Well, again, when we talk about our ambitious, sustainable development plans as these different nations, like Egypt Vision 2030, again, you will look at a lot of these ambitious projects to have, clean industry, to have, renewable energy projects. Like we have a good success story here in Egypt with the Ben, solar project, which is one of the largest, I believe, in the world. But that needs financing. So where does the financing come to, to actually implement such important projects? Because nobody will disagree that, yes, moving more towards, renewable energy sources and cleaning our industries are so important. But how do we do that without having access to financing? So this is something, again, I think it's an important topic. I think we will constantly go back to that. And this will definitely be a big part of, the discussions in COP27. Similar to in COP26, I think it came up as well. And there was an emphasis. When you look at, for example, a local presidential initiative like Haya Karima, so the idea behind it, of course, is looking at the fact that, equal distribution of wealth, making
Yes.
sure that all segments of the population have access to the basic needs.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at it on a bigger picture. Well, Africa should definitely have access, and developing countries should have access to the finance to be able to implement a lot of these important projects as well.
Right. A lot has been achieved actually for Egyptian women, and we had, of course, the national umbrella of the 100 million Saha, which is taking good care of the health of Egyptian women, the elderly, and the children, all classified. Well, we have also a contribution. A lot has been achieved vis-a-vis education, if we're talking employment opportunities. Very important in investing in the human potential, and this is the main aim and the main core of the new republic.
Sure, building capacity, developing the capacity of each individual, citizen, but at the same time different communities, and then our nation, and then looking beyond to the continent. When you talked about the 100 million Saha, I was thinking about, again, another good success story is the, with the 100 million Saha, in terms of the hepatitis C, combating hepatitis C, which as Egyptians we were disproportionately affected. But how effective that campaign was in terms of raising awareness, in terms of diagnosing, in terms of providing a cure that not only was affordable, but it was actually free. The nation actually covered it for its citizens. So this was a huge success story. And I know till today, the WHO is talking about that, using that as a great, example.
Egypt as a great example and a model to follow suit, definitely. Well, investing in women ideas and women supporting each other has no end,
Yes.
They say that when women support each other, wonderful things happen.
Well,
how can women support each other in order to, for instance, find a sense of implementation if we're talking about climate action, for instance?
Yes.
In their neighborhoods on more than one front.
Absolutely, because a lot of the most effective, if you look at activities happen on a grassroots level. So civil society plays a huge role in that. A lot of these NGOs, a lot of these civil society organizations, even if you look at a government initiative like the National Council of Women, I mean, the establishment of such organizations, providing capacity building for the women, providing awareness, providing whatever tools that they need to either start their own business or to actually get the training and to get the skills that they need, to either make a living or also to empower their families and their communities. So women take an active role empowering each other as well. And you see good examples of that. But I think, again, it comes back to awareness of the importance of empowering our women. And our nation has taken a good leading role in that. I think it's important that we, on a citizen level, to really emphasize that, to take those resources that are available to us and actually as women share our good ideas, put our heads together and come up with solutions.
Yes. Talking women and women empowerment in Africa, and Ms. Nancy, it has been months since you have been appointed as Uganda's cultural ambassador in Egypt, and you helped a lot in disseminating the culture of Uganda, discover and explore Uganda. We need more of that, among the different African countries, to know each other, to know the potential and the culture and the history and the soft power.
Absolutely. I was very excited about that, being a Goodwill Ambassador for both tourism and trade for Uganda and Egypt at the same time, because I was representing my country, Egypt, but also because I feel that it is very important, and I'm following the lead again of our president when he was leading the African Union, in terms of really we need to be more connected to our continent. We need to really reach out and share ideas and really, how should I say, Annie, be closer in terms of, we have a lot that connects us together, aside from the fact that we're on the same continent, but culturally and even religiously in many ways, we are very much similar. And you will see that when people start traveling and they start going to different, African countries, they realize, wow, this is amazing. Like, this country really the culture, the people, the history. It's just so rich. So we're so lucky to be part of this continent and to be African.
Yes, and we have lots of success stories since Egypt's chairmanship of the African Union. We've done a lot. The president is working hard, and all concerted efforts with African leaders. We are seeing them seeing eye to eye vis-a-vis more than one important file on also how to achieve a stable Africa, putting an end to the conflicts that the continent has suffered for years.
Yes, this is the biggest impediment of our development, are these conflicts, in addition to climate change. But again, you see a lot of these regional financial institutions with the headquarters in Cairo, in Egypt. This is a good indicator. And also a lot of African countries look to us as a gateway between Africa and Asia, and Africa and Europe. And so we're a great gateway for the rest of Africa in terms of, you know, trade and increasing intra-African trade, taking away a lot of those, you know, barriers and obstacles or challenges, increasing investment, so intra-African investment as well, not just the trade part. Because when we invest in our continent, this will help develop our capacity. This will help us also raise the funds that we need to be able to deal with a lot of the issues that are a result of, again, the effects of climate change, for example.
Yes. Egypt at COP27 is going to talk in the voice for African countries at this important forum and this important venue. What are we expecting concerning the work on sustainability with Africa, as well as having climate action enacted?
Sure. I believe the main objective or the main message that is coming out of the COP27 is we're here to take action, we're here to implement, and I think the term was together towards implementation, in the sense that we're in this together as a continent. Not only are we, you know, when we're hosting such events, yes, we're representing our continent, just like with the AFCON, for example, we're hosting this event. But at the same time, we're speaking, like you said, with the one voice, because it affects us as developing nations, it affects us as a continent. I think it's a matter of putting our heads together, letting our voice be heard, and getting our needs out there. Getting our partners out there and the countries that we have great relationships with to listen and to come up with solutions. And I think this is the time during the COP27 where we will see this transition again from commitment to action. And I think I keep saying that because this is really what it comes down to. We have many countries that have already promised or committed that by 2050, you know, they will be carbon zero. And that's a good, you know, good commitment. But at the same time, I think it's time to kind of see even a little action, you know, that kind of will give us hope and get us, you know, towards achieving our sustainable development goals at the same time.
Yes, definitely hope is considered to be one of the main aims and the goals, and we are really full of hope and enthusiasm looking forward to COP27. COP27 is going to create this sense of hope when we are going to reach more solutions and undertake more concerning climate action. What's the message to our different partners all over the world, Nancy, from Cairo?
Yes.
As we are anticipating the big event.
Yes. Our message is, you know, this is our moment to get, you know, our voice out and to tell the world that climate change is real and the effects of climate change are real, and we need to take action. We need to minimize or reduce our carbon footprint. We need to, you know, reach that goal of carbon zero. We need to really take it seriously, switch more to the renewable energy sources as much as possible, look at green industries or clean industries. We need to really reduce the effects of the greenhouse gases, all these things that are affecting us. We're seeing it. We're seeing it with heat waves. We're seeing it again with floods or droughts, and we're seeing it firsthand. So the only way we're going to be able to see a brighter future for ourselves and for our, you know, the future generations, our youth, is to really take action. So I think the main message that we're going to be sending out from Cairo is, let's get together this November in Sharm el-Sheikh Let's sit down. Let's take our commitments. Let's take our promises. Let's take, you know, all these great plans that we have, and let's start with an action plan, and let's start taking action.
Yeah, and women, it's a golden opportunity to take action and to share, definitely, right?
Absolutely, yes. This is our time.
Yeah.
So we will definitely take an active role.
So definitely it's our time, and tonight we talked women and climate change, and high time to take climate action. Yes. And it's always great to feel those successful vibes coming from Egypt, the mother of the world. Yes. Timely to talk climate action from Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, and the whole world are going definitely to come hands-on and looking forward to cooperate with the mother of the world. Many thanks for watching. Thank you so much, Ms. Nancy Hady.
Thank you so much for having me.
The Honorary Cultural Ambassador of Uganda in Egypt. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We talked women empowerment and climate change and climate action. And I'm Taghreed Hussein, thanking you all for being with us.